One Piece is one of the seminal masterworks of the modern manga scene, and apologies. I went through a bit of a time skip there. Boring opinions aren't really how you start off a One Piece video. Something more akin to this is how you do it. Wealth, fame, power. Gol Roger, king of the pirates, obtained this and everything else the world had to offer, and his dying words drove countless souls to the pages. You want my treasure? You can have it. I left the ending in one place. You just have to finish it. These words lured folks to the Shonen Jump magazine in pursuit of tales greater than they've ever dared to imagine. This is the time known as the Great One Piece Era. I'm Michael, and this is Building the Arc, where we tried to build the best shonen known to man, and find that lost Isle of Raftel while we're at it. This is our second case, One Piece's East Blue Saga. Let's get started. Much better. Now, to start off, I don't think One Piece really needs much of an introduction. Let's face it, it's the face of Shonen Jump. I mean, everyone knows what One Piece is, whether they've read it or watched it or just experienced it through many Muso games. But the thing that's always so intriguing about One Piece is how popular it manages to be despite its gargantuan length. Most stories that are about the same length as it, being like War and Peace, Kuchikame, Case Closed, great manga all of their own right, they're not quite as popular, and the theory I have on that is One Piece is this long continuous narrative headed by one single author, and only about 3 people know the ending, and one of those people died, I think. So I think the ending of One Piece is cursed, but we're gonna have fun getting to that ending, and we're gonna have even more fun being cursed that we know what happened. But beyond Mayan death curses, there really is a lot to admire about mangaka Eiichiro Oda, and he's probably one of my favorite authors, not only for manga, but just in fiction, because there's such a dedication to everything he does, not only as an artist, but as a writer. Every word he puts on the page has some purpose to it, whether it be an immediate focal point of the narrative, or something that comes back 500 chapters later. Everything that Oda does always has a purpose to it. Whether you think it does or doesn't, he always knows what each letter does and what each single word will mean to the audience at some point. And that's really admirable, because you really cannot think that through sometimes. Most people have trouble just coming up with a beginning, while Oda's already thinking 20 years in the future, oh shit, I know exactly what's going to happen there. They're going to love when that happens. It's going to be awesome. In the modern day, almost 20 years out from One Piece's debut, it's mostly known by a lot of people for having amazing characters, having really great art, and for me personally, having the fucking hype! I love that. I love the hype of One Piece so much. It's everything that it does, involving its characters, is what builds that up. Because if we didn't have great characters, you could have someone do 8 backflips and I wouldn't give a shit. That's why Fairy Tail is so, like, whatever to most people. It can be hype, but I don't really give a shit about these people. So why is it hype then? But One Piece, I care about everyone. Characters that we don't see again after their, like, respective arcs are always important for some reason, whether they come back later or you'll remember them forever. Some characters from Alabasta you haven't seen since the early 2000s, but I bet you still remember them because they leave such an imprint, and that imprint kind of will build up over time as you learn other characters' relations to them. And that's something, again, that really shows Oda's dedication to what he writes. Everything he does is deliberate, therefore everything he does is meaningful. We aren't wasting our goddamn time here. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, this video is gonna be very odd in some places because we're covering a whole saga instead of just one arc. And I know a lot of people are really strange about what a saga can be, because some people will call something like the Cell Saga, which is multiple arcs building up one tight narrative, just an arc, which is, it's dodgy waters, let's say it. So, for our show, a saga is just a story that would not be complete without the smaller arcs in the middle. If those arcs weren't there, then it's not a saga. And if a story can tell itself in just one continuous narrative, that's an arc. Pretty much how I'm going to function. So, just so we're clear, I'm covering from Romance Dawn to Arlong Park, as I feel Logtown's a good epilogue, and I will minorly discuss it, but I don't think it's a real focal point to what I want to talk about on the whole. So, what is it that I do want to talk about? Well, that's our next piece of the ship, if you will. That piece is, a great saga makes its audience wait for its climax without even letting them know that they're waiting. I think that East Blue pretty much exemplifies this, and that's what makes it the best opening saga. Not something like the Spirit Detective Saga, where you feel like you're waiting because you know what's ahead. One Piece, it leads you from arc to arc, making you question what happens in the next arc, and getting you jazzed because you were so excited by what happened in your current arc that you don't know that you're building up for an overall payoff, which, as we described in our last episode, requires great setup. So, this is that setup portion, as I said. We can set up a payoff with another payoff, as long as we don't let the audience in on the fact that they're being set up. Whoa there, cowboy. Okay, let's walk that one back before people start ranting at me in the comments. If I actually do have commenters, please interact. But I know I said that One Piece has the greatest opening saga, but that doesn't mean it has the greatest opening arc. We'll be covering what I think is the greatest opening arc to a shonen next time. Right now, we'll focus on the saga aspect, as this will double as both an introduction to what a great saga does, and also another great opening arc, as tends to be the theme with the next couple of videos. So, before anyone gets real dodgy about that, just know, I don't think this is the greatest opening arc. I don't even think it's close top 10 One Piece arcs. It's just alright, but there's so much that goes into this few portions of this narrative that you really have to admire it, and it's honestly amazing that Oda was able to do what he did with this over the course of about 2 years. So, as it's good to do with any story, I think it's great to start at the very beginning. Chapter 1, numero uno. What does Oda do in Chapter 1 of One Piece, the big 52-pager, that actually gets his audience to care? Well, he kind of does everything in a weird way. He introduces us to the world of One Piece through the legend of Gol Roger's execution. He gives us the primary motive to becoming a pirate, that which is freedom. He gives us the example of what a great pirate is through Shanks. He introduces his main motive of power through the Devil Fruits, what their drawbacks are, what they can do, what this specific one does, and their value/rarity. And also, he gives us a reason to care about Luffy, and I think that is more important than anything. Luffy is the thing that holds the entire series together. If it were any character but Luffy, I don't think One Piece would be as great as it is. Because Luffy is a character that isn't just your shonen protagonist, but he also has that naivete to him that makes people really relate to him and care about him. Because he's such a great guy, and you kind of look up to that, but he's also such a fucking chimp that you really don't think he's that above you, and you think that you could possibly reach that level of greatness one day, as unlikely as it would be. What really brings this chapter all together is Oda's trademark heart, and I think the heart of One Piece is Luffy himself. And seeing young Luffy have to deal with the fact that one of his best friends in the whole world, Shanks, just disfigured himself and basically ruined his life just to save him, that inspires him to think, I don't do things only for myself, I do it for the people that I care about. And as he looks after punching that Sea King and getting his revenge, he looks into that distance, it's almost the audience looking at the same horizon saying, do I really want to go through all 900 of these chapters to follow this man's journey? Most people say yes. And for the people who watched the anime, and this was at the end of like episode 5 or something, what's wrong with you? Here's our sponsor for today. Hi, I'm Michael. This is an Anime Watchers Rehabilitation Clinic. You don't have to hurt yourself. 800 something episodes is absurd. You're pushing 900. Do you know how many books you could have read in that time? Do you know how many children you could have illegally fostered? Do you know how much of a deadbeat dad you could have been? No, I know what I could have done in that time, and I did. I have so many babies running around that don't have a father. And you can too. Drop the remote. Don't look at the screen. Read some manga. It'll save you time, and you can just populate the world with your dead-end genetics. This has been a word from our sponsor. Let's get back to our video. In our first 50-something pages, we're really given everything we need to continue with this narrative. Every reason to care, to read, to not be apathetic towards a story is in these first couple of chapters. Not even the first couple, the first chapter. Most stories, and especially most manga, really take a full arc, or even a full saga, or even just like the second or third arc to really make you give a shit about what's going on. If you look at something like Naruto, you really don't get a reason to care Like, you get your reason. Naruto wants to be Hokage, president of the ninja, but you don't really get a reason to give a shit until the Land of the Waves arc. But in One Piece, right out the gate, you care about Luffy. You care about what he wants and how he's gonna get it. And now you care about the world that he hopes to carve his name into. That's a lot to do, and honestly, it's really impressive. What's not super impressive is the rest of the Romance Dawn arc. It's alright, it's standard, you kind of expect it. It's standard because it kind of created that standard as well, so don't let me get tied with that. Now, it really just shows you what an evil pirate looks like in the form of Alvida, because we have such a great guy in Shanks that you really want to know, are all pirates really good? And the answer is no. So then you think, okay, well, here's Kobe, he's talking about how great the world government is, and then you see Axehand Morgan, and you're like, these guys are dicks. Is anyone nice in this world? And then you see Helmeppo, and you're like, no, there's no good in this world. Nope, it's all done. I love Helmeppo, too. He's amazing. Anyone who shits on Helmeppo, you got beef with me, I'm sorry. But other than that, we get our first introduction to one of the goodest good boys to ever walk the earth.
Sanji's lollipop. I want to find out what he's always slurping on.
Sanji's not gonna like that!
Then don't tell him.
And that good boy is Roronoa Zoro, and we'll save talk of his backstory for a little bit later on tonight. But I really want to stress how much I did not like Zoro for a long time. Not actively hate, he just was never really my favorite Straw Hat. He still isn't, but he's earned some good boy points as he's moved up the charts. It's just, I always saw him as really basic and bland. He just kind of seemed to be the second man. And every time I thought back to really important, iconic moments in the series, he always popped up. He was always there. On Thriller Bark, at the Baradier, at Dressrosa, he's always somewhere involved. And the more you look at it, he really is not just a second fiddle, he is a co-captain at this point. And being a co-captain requires you be a massive fucking ape. And I love him. And I love how he tries to be a straight man even though he's a fucking ape. Personally, I believe Zoro fills this really important mold in One Piece. He's to show that sometimes, just sometimes, devil fruits ain't shit, and they would not matter to him. If Zoro had a devil fruit, he'd be infinitely worse off, because he would have no fucking clue what to do with it. Zoro's whole character is about proving time and time and time again that no matter what natural talent you were born with, whatever power you may possess, no matter what you can do, someone who's trained like a fucking animal can always beat you. And that is Zoro. He's just a caged animal who's always ready to go. And that's kind of what endears him to a lot of people. Is he's some of the best fights in the series. And he's always about overcoming that odd. Luffy has that issue too, but his is more strength v strength. We're on an equal level more often than not, and then I'll just introduce something that makes me stronger. Zoro is always at a disadvantage, and he somehow skirts around the disadvantage and always just ekes out a win at the end. Normally heavily bloodied and bruised, but a win's a win. Another great thing about Zoro isn't so much his character, but just how he's introduced. He's shown to just be this cold-hearted motherfucker who doesn't care about Luffy at all, and Luffy somewhat persuades him with the strongest form of energy in One Piece, which is just Luffyism. His charisma is something that rivals gods in this story. It does not make sense how charismatic and likable Luffy is. And he's not likable only to characters in his world, it's something that's extended to the audience, not because we're told, you should like Luffy because he's such a great guy. We're just liking Luffy because Luffy's a likable guy. And it's not forced down our throat. Same thing with Zoro. Zoro is cool, not because the story says he's cool, but because he does cool things. Luffy's nice, not because we're told he's nice. He's just a nice guy. He's a great guy. But most importantly, Luffy's not a hero. And he keeps that balance pretty well of just being a great guy who helps people because they're in the way. It's the opposite of a villain who just does things because you were in my way. I'll help you because you were in my way. It's kind of a great turn of the head of a shonen character, of something that's normally reserved for ruthless villains, for a good-hearted hero who just wants his own adventure. Next we come to Orange Town, which is probably my favorite arc in the saga next to Arlong Park. And I mean, it's obvious, if Arlong Park isn't your favorite part of the East Blue Saga, you're fucking dead inside. Like me, but beyond the point. Pretty much, Orange Town is this prototype to every future great One Piece arc. The structure of Luffy and the gang roll up to a village, some people are harassing the locals, they decide to kick some ass, and then you either throw in like a new lore detail, a new straw hat, or just something cool that happens there that makes you remember it. Examples of this would be Arlong Park, pretty much the same idea, Alabasta, Thriller Bark, Dressrosa, the list goes on and on and on. And it's interesting that what people consider the greatest arcs, except for a certain somebody I know who says Dressrosa is the best arc. Sorry there, friend. I would agree if you said best New World arc. But the two considered best arcs are the ones that stray from this formula. One being Enies Lobby, which is more of an invasion arc, and one like Marineford, which is just a big war. They're different, and they come at the right moments. And trust me, we'll talk about them in the far future, but needless to say, they really do their job right. And Orange Town does its job amazingly well as testing the waters to make sure the audience is cool with an arc like this. If you don't like Orange Town, you probably won't like One Piece, more or less if you don't like the structure of Orange Town, because the story is a little bit lacking. But, oh boy, but what you do get a whole lot of in this arc is Buggy. Oh boy, do you get some fucking Buggy in this arc. Buggy the Clown is just one of the great manga characters ever. He just, something about him screams a love of this genre of shonen, because he is a walking symbol of weakness. He is amazing. Anyone who is seen with Buggy is somehow paradoxically both a complete fucking loser by association, but an absolute monster by comparison. Buggy's just, he exists to literally get shit on and nothing else. And his New World equivalent, Caesar Clown, pretty much fills that same role. And I fucking love Buggy, because he shows that not every villain has to be like a Morgan or an Alvida, where they're just bad and that's it. They're bad for the sake of being bad. Buggy is bad for one reason. He wants fucking money. And Buggy's not only evil, he's inept. He is a jokester. He's a fucking idiot. He is everything in one, and I adore him. And he's a great main villain of this arc, and he's just a great reoccurring motherfucker in the whole series. Something about Buggy, just like, it warms the little dingy fucking hole in my chest that I call my heart. I love him. And if I could get anyone to cosplay as Buggy and just hit me in the face, and then I get to call them an idiot and kick them in the dick, oh my god, I would love it. Buggy, you're my hero. I want to grow up to be just like you. I already have your hat. I already have grown my hair exactly like yours. I already have a nose and everything, although it's, you know, not as red. But no, there's nothing wrong with your red nose. I just appreciate it more. But I just want to be like Buggy. Oh man, what a guy. Oh god. Okay, settle down. Lost my composure a bit. Beyond just Buggy, what else does Orange Town really give us? It gives us Nami. I don't hate Nami, but a friend of mine really put a great word to this feeling, and that's somebody had to be my least favorite. Somebody had to be number 10. And that just so happens to be Nami. She's there. She's not very funny. She's the perennial straight man of the Straw Hats. She doesn't really have many interesting fights. It's sad because she has a cool weapon. I like the climate act a lot, but there's just nothing that Oda does with her, and it's a damn shame because you really can do a lot with that kind of character. And she's just kind of not as interesting as the other Straw Hats. Most Straw Hats either have really strong character and backstory, or are just really cool to watch fight. And she really doesn't have either. Like, you have someone like Robin, who, she has a really interesting way of fighting. She also has a really interesting backstory. And you have someone like Sanji, who has a really interesting way of fighting, but his backstory can be seen as lacking. Or you have someone like Zoro, who's all fighting, no backstory. It's stuff like that. Now, whoa, I hear you say. Zoro has a bad backstory. You're fucking with me. Well, I'm gonna fuck with you in the opposite direction and say I adore Zoro's backstory. It is amazing. His backstory is just the biggest anti-joke in the series. It's just most of those samurai characters that you really come to expect to have a really dark, brooding, tragic backstory. I lost my family in the war. I was forced to kill my own brother in a duel. Zoro's is like such a non-story. It's just, yeah, you know, I fight with 3 swords. People told me I was dumb, but, you know, works out for me. Showed them. There was this cool girl I knew. Oh, what was her name? I don't remember. Kuina? Fuck it. She was nice. We made a promise to each other. Then she fell down some stairs. That really sucked. I miss her. But, you know, now I'm here. You know, best swordsman in the world almost. That's pretty much it. It's such a big joke, and I fucking love it. I hope it pays off where we have something like Sanji on Whole Cake, where you get his normal backstory all the way in the Baratier, and then in Whole Cake you kind of get an extension to his backstory and you learn more. I hope that's what Wano does to Zoro, and it's actually something you just completely forgot, and you just get this big, long, lavish backstory, and it's just him kind of sitting there going like, oh yeah, that did happen, oh shit, fuck. But, you know, Orange Town, pretty great. Buggy, Nami, you get the idea. Now, fellas, let's talk about Gaimon. This concludes our discussion about Gaimon. You see, it's those hard-hitting discussions that makes me the best philosopher of the modern day. And looking at my non-existent watch, it turns out that this video is going to be a little bit too long if kept in one piece. So, we'll make this a 2-piece, 2-part, whatever, the meme is dead. Join me next time as we wrap up the rest of the East Blue Saga on One Piece. I mean, Building the Arc. Yeah, that's the name of my show. Later.